Right, well, I guess this is it. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, since I was back in school. I remember having a meeting with one of my teachers saying, what do you want to do for, when you grow up, and what do you want to do for work? And I said to them, blacksmithing. But where I was, there was nothing nearby that could do that. So I went down my electrical route, but now finally I've decided to actually go ahead and try and start. It's been a long time in the making, I think. I've wanted to do it for pretty much as long as I can remember. And now I've decided this would be the start. It actually all started, actually in progress last Christmas, when my partner, she bought me a blacksmithing book, which is this Blacksmith Apprentice to Master, Tools, Traditions and Ancient Craft by Alex Pole. And she got me that for Christmas last year because I told her, what I wanted to do when I was younger, and that I still want to do it. So she bought me this book, which is brilliant, by the way. It has a lot of information in, techniques, tools, equipment, a whole myriad of information here, which I found was very useful for, wanting to begin this. But obviously it hasn't been a 5-minute sort of job. I've considered, quitting my job, which I'm not doing yet, anyway. I've considered different things, but I finally came up with this approach of doing it in my spare time, as and when I can, really. And yeah, so this is sort of where I landed. And I've decided that my garage, which I don't use the garage, more for storage anyway, is going to be the beginning of my forge. And I'm so excited to actually start now. It's been delays in shipping and receiving my forge, which we'll see in a minute. And it's just been so frustrating. But now, as of today, which is the 4th of December 2023, it has arrived, and I would like to do an unboxing with you and, talk about what I want to do and go from there, I suppose. So I will grab it, and here it is. So I'm not 100% knowledgeable on this. This is something that I am going to be learning as I go, and this is going to be an experience and a learning curve, and I want to actually become apprentice to master, which is not going to be a 5-minute journey. I understand that, but the way to do it is to take small steps. So this is where this comes in, which is a propane melting furnace, and this is going to be me unboxing it now for the first time. I've read reviews and decided that this one was the best one for what I wanted to begin with, because it's not just actually I should go back to the beginning a little bit and say, so I'm not going to start forging straight away. I'm going to start with casting, which, as some of you may know and don't, is the pouring of molten metal into into predetermined shapes. So I'm going to start off with ingots, which you'll see later in this video, which will be my first cast ever, and from there proceed into more intricate designs, and hopefully once I've got a bit more money and a bit more ability, which is the important thing here, that I will go into forge welding, and actually making of tools and equipment, which hopefully I'll be able to continue with and eventually sell in the future, to you know, in the future, quit my job and do this full time. So without further ado, I chose this product specifically because it's not only a crucible, which is the melting point of, you know, is where you put the metal in that you melt. It is also a blast forge, which essentially means I can use it to heat up iron, steel, copper, any sort of material, to manipulate and shape into whatever I want it to, whether that's an ingot, well, that would be casting, but whether that will be, you know, beginning with forge welding, which is something I would like to start with, I think, because that's a good place to start, to then developing the skills to make weapons, knives and swords, mainly from films and TV shows, because I am, you know, I've played games, watched films for as long as I can remember, and this is always what I've wanted to do. One thing I will take a lot of inspiration from is things like Skyrim, Lord of the Rings, Mandalorian / Star Wars, and I'm sure there's a myriad of things I'm forgetting right now, but they're the things that I'll be taking inspiration from and actually designing, and also fresh designs, which I'm looking forward to doing. But let's continue with this unboxing, shall we? So from the top is this. It is quite heavy, as you would expect from something like this, I suppose. There's user manual, I'll get to that later. That's more for me than for you guys, I suppose. And then there's, right, I'm assuming this is the outlet. I don't know what you can see, I'm going to put it there. And there's a few more items in the top before we even start taking this off. I'm going to do a construction video, probably attached to this one, of everything and putting it together for the first time and then lighting it for the first time all at once. Okay, so that's, I think I know what a lot of these items are, which is good because I'm the one using it and constructing it. Right, first big item. So we have these, I'm assuming handle, and I'm assuming these are the gas valves. Well, not the gas valves, but the gas input to the forge itself. Which I could be wrong, but we'll find out again. How do I get this out? So that's, is that the lid? Looks like that's the lid. Alright, so that's just the isolator valves. Yeah, that's the isolator valves. So this will, not quite sure where these go. Assumption, again, assumption, I'm learning along as we go, is in there, which looks like about right. Yeah, about the end. And I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of hose in there, which will hopefully come later, but if not, I have one. And I'm assuming this is the lid, yes. Right, nothing else in there. Nothing else hiding, as it always is in packaging. Right, so yes, this is the lid of the Crucible, which is attached via this handle here, is my assumption, but I will get to that later in the construction of it. But for now, this is just unboxing. And here's the goodie part. So this is the gas isolation valve. I have the propane, because this is a propane crucible, stored down below. And obviously this furnace would not work without it. I need new 90s this one. Hopefully I can make them in the future. But this is the reinforced piping by the looks of things, which I'm guessing will go into this isolation valve by screwing in, yeah, there. So there's a whole bunch of warnings which I will read before constructing this equipment. I feel like it's a fairly important thing to read as you're going. You don't want any gas leaks, anything like that. But yeah, so this has a pressure valve, which is what I'm looking forward to using, because hopefully from this I will be able to determine what you know, what pressure I am using, hopefully using therefore less gas in forging, melting, and so hopefully I can fine tune this to a point where I'm using the optimal amount of gas to melt the metal down, but also, you know, at a sensible rate. So I'll come back to that later, but this is about a 2-meter lead, which, as I suspect, will fasten up into that, which then diverts it into a 2-way splitter, going down into these, and then these, I am hoping, go into the actual crucible itself. Right, so that's rubbish. I will lay this all out later and we can have a look at it properly together later in a minute. Some more rubbish. Right, and this is the bulk, so the actual crucible itself. Right, let's have a look at this, shall we? So, crucible pot. Okay, this audio is not going to sound nice. Right, so, hands are already black because this is carbon pot, graphite. So this is what similar to what your pencils will use to, you know, rub down. Right, so this here is the crucible where all the exciting and fun things will happen. I'm assuming that's a base plate. Right, so in here is thermal lining, as you can see in there. This will hopefully keep the heat in and keep it hot so it can melt down relatively quickly and nicely, importantly. Right, so as I was saying earlier, I believe that slots down in there, but once it goes in, I don't think it's ever going to come out. So I'm going to do that later once I've actually looked at the user manual. This is a, did I get 6 kilo or 12? Can't remember if I got a 6 or I think I got a 6 kilogram crucible. So this will melt up to 6 kilos. Could have got 12. I will get back to you on that one. Right, so yes, this is the actual melting point, the crucible that the gas will go into and ignite and then melt the metal which I have. I am going to start off with copper. I have an abundance of it. As I mentioned earlier, I'm an electrician. I have been for the past 7 years now. So I have an abundance of, you know, old copper, which is what I'm going to be starting off with. Right, so this is placed at the bottom. Yeah, so I'm going to be starting off with copper and working my way up to other metals such as alloys such as brass and bronze, which hopefully will be one of the first tools I make out of, which will be bronze, like the Bronze Age. So this here is, I'm assuming, sandstone of some description because that can get quite hot, which is what you place this melting pot on. So that's to stop any, you know, damage to the crucible at the bottom. Can't really show you this, I'll show you after. I had a downwards perspective of what it should look like. But yeah, so this is this. Stick that out of the way. There's a few more things in the box. Right, first pair of tongs. I will be starting off with this, but I will be advancing to a larger pair relatively quickly, I think. But that is to grab the crucible pot, so I don't have to burn myself getting it out. I do have gloves, apron, safety equipment stashed away, ready for use immediately. And there's another one here. So this one will be for when it's being used as a forge. So at the moment, with the sandstone, I'm assuming, in the bottom of the crucible, of the forge, beg your pardon, that will be for the crucible to sit on. So that will allow it to circulate air better. This will be so you can lay it on its side and use, you know, put metal on it, and therefore allowing it to heat up individual parts of the metal rather than melting it down. So that's what that's for. Right, I believe, yep, that's the last in there. we'll ignore that for now. Alright, so yes, as you can see in there, hopefully, there's the cement, which is cement, not sandstone. I was mistaken in that. Can sit down at the bottom or go in and lay down its side there. As you can see, this forge is designed, when it's not sat on something wobbly, to sit flat, which is very important because that means I can, you know, put metal in there and leave it heating up so that I can then hammer it and change its shape. Let's put that out of the way. Right. Better put that down nicely, otherwise my girlfriend will be very upset with me. Alright, so there's tongs there, the crucible which is here, which as you can see I'm leaving it in the plastic for now because otherwise I do not want to get graphite and carbon all over the table. I then have the two-way valve which I showed earlier attaching to these two, which attaches in the furnace there. This is, you know, so you can heat up the forge twice as quickly. Brush, unknown reason, we'll figure that out later. And this is the lid, so let's put it back in a second. Alright, I'm back. Alright, so here we have the hose which will go into the two-way valve here, out of this and into the bottom here. I thought there'd be something to cover this hole, but maybe it doesn't need it. Maybe that's the oxygen fuel that it needs at the same time. But let's have a look through this manual quick so I can get a better understanding. Right, so I had a quick look into it. I appear to be missing 2 screws, but I'll deal with that later. It'll be in the packaging somewhere, I'm sure. So, as I was saying earlier, I've had a look through the manual, as you saw through there. It's very basic. 4 pages, a couple of pictures, that's about it. So it appears that the inside of the crucible has to be lined with this. I assume that's to keep it from damaging itself in the future. We have the handle, which I'll do assembling all of later for you, well, with you, I suppose. I have the tongs over here. I have the gas, you know, pipe. I don't know, that's not the correct term for it, but there you are. So this can tighten up and restrict the flow of gas through. I then have this two-way gas valve, which I've had a look into, and it does appear to do that. I'm slightly concerned about the fact that, you know, there's a big gap of air here. I'm assuming that's to allow the oxygen in to burn, because as you should know, fire cannot burn without oxygen. However, I thought that'd be drawn in from the top. So again, I'm just going to look into that in a little bit as well as I'm assembling and afterwards. These two will go on here, and then we turn it. We'll then go on to here, which is where I'm missing the 2 screws from the back over here to tighten this in as a final thing. So this gives me a wide berth, and also 2 isolation valves, as well as the first one up here. So I actually have quite a few points of isolation, which I'm happy about. Handle goes on the top of the lid, which will make it easier to remove when I'm actually using it. I need to adjust the fiberglass so it is, you know, the circle of this metal. I don't want any obstructing it, so I can sort that out off camera as well. Right, and then we get into the fun part. So for this, I would need you. Right, so here is the crucible. So we have the crucible down there underneath, which you can just see the corners of just there. Is what I learned is the factory block, which is to, you know, stop the furnace from overheating and blowing out the bottom, I'm assuming. So from here, doing this one-handed might be a bit difficult. Let me change hands. I can use the tongs to grab, obviously, to grab it and pull it out when there's molten metal in this crucible here. And you can see at the bottom there, so you can see the inlet valves there. There's 2 holes, Yeah, so they are those two here, which is where the gas will go in and out. Those tongs, yeah, as I said, I will be upgrading at some point, but we can deal with that later. So here's the equipment. As I said, this isn't assembled, this is just lightly put together. So this is what I was saying earlier, you actually have two huge holes going through, and I have these two screws. You can just see, just here, top and bottom, which should clamp down onto this nozzle to stop it from going anywhere. However, I don't want to put it in there for now, just in case. So I am missing them screws. I need to check through the packaging. Christmas tree, bought that the other day. But yeah, so I need to check in here for the last few things. I will hopefully get back with you when I'm ready to assemble. So, as I said a few minutes ago, well, a few minutes for me, seconds for you, I am still missing the two screws for the crucible to attach the nozzles to the actual crucible forge. So I need to contact the supplier about that and figure out what's going on with that. I do actually have some screws that I can put into there to hold it in temporarily at least. So that's not a huge issue, but other than that, it's all good. I'm very excited to get this together, and I'll bring this down to the garage and I'll meet you there. Hello, this is future me editing. There's one more clip that I need to put in. It doesn't really fit anywhere else, but basically the garage is a complete and utter mess. There's no hope of me putting the forge in there right now if I don't clean it out. So you and me need to get down there, sort it out, and I'll meet you down there. Right, that is part one of part two. I normally don't plan to split things into two parts, however, it just sort of happened. The video ended up being so long. It ended up being about 50 minutes long on the first edit. I was like, okay, I can't just put this into one. So here we are, part one of part two. I was so excited doing this for the first time, and to be honest, I'm still excited. I'm actually on video three of filming, and even now I'm just so excited still, and I've been really excited to share this journey with you guys, so hopefully you enjoyed. Sorry, it seemed a little bit awkward. I am filming for the first time in my life. I'm also doing blacksmithing for the first time in my life. So it is a very much learning experience for me. So excuse, a little bit of awkwardness in this video and the next one. And editing as well. It's taken me a long time to edit. So excuse, again, a few things in there, but I've tried my best and I hope it's good for you guys. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and there's a little teaser at the end of this, but if not, well, after that, I will see you in part two. See you later.